we're delighted to have a panel of 4 of our terrific task force members who will share their expertise, highlighting the report's key recommendations. Our panelists are Dr. David Joseph, the clinical director at the Oakland Vet Center, Stephen Moss, a partner at Holland and Knight and the founding chair of Mission United in Broward County, Florida, Nicole Perez, managing attorney of the Ron Olson Justice Center at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, and the Honorable Robert Russell, the founder and presiding judge of the Veterans Treatment Court in Buffalo, New York. Let's jump right into it and start with a question for Dr. Joseph. We've heard about it today, and throughout our meetings, the task force discussed the challenges that separating service members face when they reintegrate into civilian life. And the question, David, I'd like you to talk about is how can legal aid providers mitigate those challenges that transitioning veterans experience? And I know you're not a legal aid lawyer, you work with legal aid lawyers, you're a doctor at a clinic that serves veterans. From what you see, how could legal aid programs help?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for including me here on the panel. And it's been an absolute honor both to be here and to have participated in this entire incredible process. Let's start by saying this. The experience of leaving the military is not always an easy one. We know that many veterans experience readjustment stress, sometimes for a few months and sometimes for years. After all, the transition from military to civilian isn't the same as leaving one job for another or leaving one city for another. It's about leaving a culture, an all-encompassing, team-oriented, mission-driven, highly structured society, for one that is mostly individually oriented, ambition-driven, and very loosely structured. I remember getting a call a few years ago from a close friend on his last day in the Air Force, where he had just served for 13 years, including a deployment to Iraq. He had just left his base for the last time, and he stopped at a gas station to change his clothes out of his military uniform and into his civilian clothes. It's the strangest feeling, he told me. My car is headed to California. My GPS is giving me directions, but in every other way, I feel completely lost. And for a lot of veterans, lost is exactly the right word for how they feel, because so much of what they've come to know and depend on in their world is gone. Gone is the uniform that defines their affiliation, their history, their place in that society, and their achievements. Gone is the mission that gives them purpose. Gone is the daily contact with the brothers and sisters who make up their social universe, understand their humor, and support them unconditionally. Gone are the orders that give their day structure. Gone is the job where you train so hard to excel. Gone are the bi-weekly paychecks that provide financial security and predictability in their lives. Gone are the nuanced social norms that govern your behavior and their language, both the words that they say and the way that they say them. Gone are all the people who understand where you went, what you did, and what it was like. And it's important to remember that as well, that a significant number of our veterans leave the military in addition to having that readjustment stress, also with physical and mental health disabilities that complicate the readjustment. And I should say that I could talk for a few more hours just about that topic. And so if anyone's interested, reach out to me after the panel. But it's also important to note that specific veteran populations that are in any case more vulnerable are and more underserved, including our women veterans, our LGBTQ plus veterans, our veterans of color, often face additional barriers as they find it challenging to fit in with the civilian world, or at the same time, find a supportive cohort of veterans that understand their experiences, both inside the military and out in the world. Sometimes our veterans face legal challenges that are a direct result of readjustment issues, or mental health, or physical disabilities. But other times, those legal challenges play a role, an important contextual role, both in the cause of legal trouble and in the solution. So what can legal service providers do to support reintegration? First and foremost, the report correctly recommends that providers develop cultural competency by learning about military culture and the unique experiences of veterans, both in the service and after they transition out. I should add that learning about military culture is more than just learning about rank structures or the difference between an MRAP and an up-armored Humvee. It's about gaining insights into what it can feel like to serve our country, possibly to deploy to war and to return home. Understanding those veterans' lived experiences helps providers, both mental health providers and especially legal service providers, build trust and rapport with veteran clients. And it can often help explain both the root cause of the problem and a path to a solution. It's important. We talk a lot about building rapport. We talk a lot about trust, but it's important not to underestimate how incredibly powerful and consequential that cultural understanding and the trust and rapport that it can bring can be to the outcome of legal cases. I can think of many examples through the medical legal partnership that I've been a part of, where working with culturally competent, knowledgeable, and understanding attorneys made a lifelong difference in the lives of the veterans that we served. Finally, the report reminds us the VAs and vet centers often play important roles in the readjustment process, especially when mental health issues are concerned. Legal service providers should strongly consider building relationships with those providers in their local areas and developing medical legal partnerships, MLPs, to serve as force multipliers as we all attempt to serve veterans. On a final note, as we approach Memorial Day and remember to thank the veterans in our lives for their service, we should thank them not only for what they did, but for what they were willing to do, which was anything and everything that was asked of them. Thank you so much. I appreciate very much being here today.
Thank you, David, and thanks for your insights throughout our task force work. Nicole, out in Los Angeles, reintegration can be particularly difficult for veterans with so-called bad paper. A lot of us know what bad paper is, but not everybody does. Can you define bad paper and talk about the task force's recommendations for supporting veterans with bad paper?
Absolutely. And if I may echo everyone else's statements first to just say, thank you for this tremendous opportunity. It's been absolutely wonderful and re-engaging to work with all of you through this process. So let's start out with a framework. So when every service member separates from active duty, the military assigns them one of several characterizations of their discharge. It ranges from what you might have heard of an honorable discharge all the way through to a dishonorable discharge. That characterization is put on a piece of paper called the DD-214. It's a military separation document. You might think of it like a military report card. So when we take that piece of paper and we take that less than honorable discharge status, that is what we colloquially refer to as bad paper or a less than honorable discharge. It's estimated that about 500,000 veterans nationwide have bad paper. At Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, we are a proud LSC-funded agency. Far too many of our unhoused and low-income veteran clients have these bad paper discharges. And frankly, what we've learned over the years is this is no coincidence. So that's because bad paper discharges are like a scarlet letter for a veteran. They disproportionately affect them for years and even decades after discharge. Less than honorable veterans lose important access to veterans benefits that give them things like healthcare, education, housing, and income, all of which a veteran needs to thrive. Bad paper jeopardizes veterans' job prospects, both in the public sphere and in the private sector. And bad paper strips veterans of a sense of worth and pride. We can't overstate how important the emotional and mental aspect of bad paper might be for those who served. And so denied dignity and economic security that are afforded to veterans who have an honorable discharge. There's really no doubt here that there is such a high correlation between bad paper discharges, veteran houselessness, substance abuse, incarceration, and suicide. Let me break it down. So Veterans with bad paper are 2 times more likely to commit suicide, 7 times more likely to be unhoused, and they're 50% more likely to be incarcerated. So one of the pieces that you can tell, I'm passionate about this is so infuriating, is that time and time again, they're getting bad paper because they're victims of circumstance and systemic discrimination. So service members in the Marine Corps, 10 times more likely than those in the Air Force to get a less than honorable discharges. Service members who have post-traumatic stress, 11 times more likely to get bad paper. So it might show on that DD-214 report card that they'd had drug abuse, but what you won't see there is that they were self-medicating because of their post-traumatic stress symptoms. You also can't see that so many veterans who get bad paper are those who have military sexual trauma or who were raped in the service. In fact, you're more likely to get bad paper if you report an MST or military sexual trauma incident. And of course, I can't, again, overstate that this was also one way for veterans to rid the military of gay, lesbian, and bisexual service members. If you can remember, don't ask, don't tell. And those who are veterans of color or service members of color are so substantially more likely to be discharged with a less than honorable status for even petty or minor transgressions. Native Americans, 50% more likely. And Black service members, 15% more likely to get bad paper. So I can go on. My point is these stories are not just statistics. These are our clients who suffer injustices. And as the federal court wrote recently in its decision in Kennedy v. McCarthy, these bad paper injustices, quote, present a situation of widespread and enormous personal suffering. So Ron, if I can put out a call to action for my sister legal service agencies, for my other legal aides, be intentional. And by that, I mean a couple of things. One, ask questions. Don't just ask, have you served in the United States military? Ask what someone's discharge status is. Understand a little bit more about how we might be able to help them, and then be intentional about the services you're able to provide. Secretary McDonough said so well, actually, and so moving at the beginning of these remarks. With the increased risk of houselessness and suicide, it really cannot become a matter of too little, too late. So that means if your organization can make the capacity to start doing discharge upgrade work, fantastic. If you can help less than honorable veterans access veterans benefits, wonderful. And you're not going to be doing this alone. You can tap into the many of us, your sister agencies who already do this meaningful work. And in fact, you can tap into free trainings that we do every year around Veterans Day on this very issue. Other thing, get connected. So even if you don't have the capacity to provide targeted legal services based on a veteran's discharge status, we encourage you to build comprehensive interactive networks with those who can provide services to veterans. And the report provides you with a wonderful toolkit on the means in which you can do that. And my last call is going to be to state and local governments. Reinvest in veterans who have bad paper. You can remedy the injustices that they've experienced by expanding access to your state and local veterans benefits programs. You can develop programs that better supplement federal benefits. You can provide the important safety nets that veterans need so that they don't move into complete and utter areas of despair. So again, my final plea, we cannot allow this to be a matter of too little, too late. And I will leave it at that and direct you to the report. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Nicole. Your remarks about collaboration are a perfect segue to my questions for Stephen. Stephen, in some sense, there is no shortage of numbers of people and organizations that would like to help veterans, but sometimes a plethora of helpers can be as daunting as too few. So the task force identified collaborations between and among service providers as essential for increasing veterans' access to services. Can you tell us about your experiences and how legal aid providers can forge relationships with other service providers in their communities so that there's not this kind of incomprehensible web?
Ron, thanks very much. And I want to thank again and express my appreciation for serving on the Veterans Task Force and being a representative to speak with you all here today. It is indeed an honor. I proudly served our country in the Army in Vietnam, and I'm the proud father of a daughter who served in the Army in Iraq. And it's especially meaningful to me to be a part of this presentation. One of the biggest problems for veterans when they reacclimate to civilian life, or for other veterans when they need services, is navigating the system. There are usually many organizations in a community that provide services to veterans, but they often operate in silos and they're not connected with each other. Legal aid providers should learn about other veterans organizations in their community that provide services to veterans and their families, and forge relationships and provide referrals to each other. Leaving egos at the door. The goal should be a network of services for veterans and their families, where communities work together as a team effectively and holistically to meet the needs of veterans and their families. Collaboration is the key. The legal issue that was the reason why a veteran came to your legal aid organization for counseling may have been because of a mental health issue, or a lack of housing, or an education issue, or financial instability, unemployment, or being underemployed. Resolving that legal issue may only be a Band-Aid. It's a great opportunity for legal aid organizations to provide warm handoffs within a community for other services that could change a veteran's life forever. And don't give a veteran a number to call. Make the call, make the appointment while the veteran is with you. There are some outstanding community-based care organizations in our country, and your community may already have one for you to connect with them. They provide centralized intake and referral system that connects veterans to any services they need. And let me give you some examples. Combined Arms, which is based in Houston and spreading throughout Texas, is the epitome of a coordinated care network with a multitude of services for veterans, all on one campus. America Serves, based in Syracuse, and Mission United, a program of the United Way, has network communities throughout the country, and they're both expanding nationally and coordinating and working together. Once a network is established in your community, there is no wrong door for a veteran or family member to enter to get the services that are needed. If you are not aware of a coordinated care network in your community, then I urge you to reach out to the Veterans Experience Office of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. The Veterans Experience Office works with community organizations, and they're providing services to veterans and their families throughout the country. John Bursler, the outstanding former CEO of Combined Arms, was recently appointed as the Chief Veterans Experience Officer and as a direct report to VA Secretary McDonough. John's team of dedicated Veterans Experience officers will help you get connected with your local VA and other service providers in your community. The Veterans Experience Office currently has 146 community veterans engagement boards nationally, affectionately referred to as CVEBs. And if there's not one in your community, you can help start one and have a seat at the table. CVEBs provide national, state, and local resources to facilitate passionate volunteers and service providers working together to benefit veterans and their families in a community. Another great opportunity for legal aid providers is to collaborate with your local VA medical centers and have clinics at the medical centers each week. And reach out to the attorneys in your community to provide opportunities for them to represent veterans and their families pro bono through law firms, corporate legal departments, your local bar associations, and law schools. An example is that Mission United of the United Way of Broward County, Greater Fort Lauderdale, has over 400 attorneys who volunteer with legal aid to provide pro bono legal services for veterans and their families. In conclusion, collaborate. Collaborate with other service providers in your community. The collaboration will ensure that veterans and their families can tear off those Band-Aids and change their lives forever. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And I do want to underscore medical legal partnerships. They're a tremendously effective service delivery model. Secretary McDonough mentioned them. My soon-to-be colleague, Will Gunn, was a champion of medical legal partnerships when he was at the VA. Obviously, our kickoff speaker on this panel, Dr. David Joseph, is not here by accident. They are really a potent service delivery model, and the report talks about them a great deal. Let's move from collaboration to another place where collaboration is important, and that's veteran treatment courts. The task force report identifies veterans treatment courts as an example of successful collaboration between and among service providers, and of course, in this instance, the judiciary as well. Judge Russell, you're not just one judge on a veterans treatment court, you're really a pioneer in establishing veterans treatment courts, and we thank you for your pioneering efforts and for being with us today. Can you tell our audience how do veteran treatment courts operate and their role in ensuring veterans access to services?
Yes, and thank you very much, Ron Flagg, and it's a pleasure and honor to be here this afternoon and have the opportunity to serve on the task force. Also, it's a pleasure to see Will Gunn. I haven't seen him in some years when he was the chief counsel for the VA. And let me state, I mentioned that because Veterans Treatment Court actually evolved from working with veterans in our community and actually discussing what we could design to provide the best means of support for veterans that we're seeing coming through the criminal justice system that were suffering from dependency on substances, mental health disorder, traumatic brain injuries, and they found themselves in a situation where they were charged with a criminal offense. We met with our local Department of Veteran Affairs and then subsequently nationally to discuss could the VA assist this local court in being able to service men and women that we've seen coming through our criminal justice system with these mental health disorders or substance dependency, to provide them the clinical and medical support. And to the credit of the VA, they actually put a staff person in this local criminal court to be able to immediately engage a veteran that is seen in our justice system to be placed in our Veterans Treatment Court, which is a hybrid drug and mental health treatment court. But what's unique about the Veterans Treatment Court is that it's a courtroom full of veterans. Every participant in the Veterans Treatment Court is a man or a woman who have worn the uniform and made the sacrifices for us and for the freedom that we realized. In addition to a courtroom entirely of veterans, we have a representative from the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Veterans Justice Outreach Worker, to assist with the clinical needs of that veteran. In addition, we also have a representative from the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs for the benefit department to assist veterans with benefits that they earn through their service. Many veterans don't even realize that they've earned certain benefits. So to have that person there in the court is critical. In addition, we also have a representative from the Vet Center Certain of our veterans that have specific needs that may be related to their combat experience, some for military sexual trauma, some for family counseling, and so forth. The Veterans Center has been a critical partner. In addition, we also work with the community veteran service organizations that provide a number of different services for our veterans. We work with Veteran Pacific agencies that their mission is to serve veterans and the various needs of veterans. That can include housing, that can include childcare, that can include a number of other issues. But I am also grateful to our legal service agencies in our community, two of which send representatives to the Veterans Treatment Court to assist veterans on their civil needs. A number of our veterans just don't come to us with a pending criminal charge, but they also have other legal needs. Some, it could be related to family court, child custody issues, some matrimonial issues, some financial bankruptcy, some with regards to landlord-tenant foreclosure, things of that sort. So we try to explore on a holistic approach on how best we can address the needs of these veterans, not just their clinical needs. In addition, we also work with our federal and state Department of Labor to assist veterans on employment issues. A number of our veterans, they would like to, one, be employed, or two, look at employment that best suit their needs. In addition, we work with our local colleges, and we started up some years ago a program called Education to Recovery, and which we have representatives from the various colleges that actually assist our veterans and in their needs, whether it's for a trade or whether it's for getting their college degree, and providing that veteran support. I think a number of visitors to the Veterans Treatment Court, whether it's ours locally or those around the country, is they really enjoy seeing the men and women who volunteer. And these are men and women who worn the uniform, and they are our volunteer veteran mentors. I know General Butch Tate used to, or he referred to our volunteer veteran mentors as the secret sauce of Veterans Treatment Court. And that is men and women who've gone through similar experiences as the veterans who are going through our court program. And they provide that support as a mentor, a coach, that battle buddy, someone who will have that veteran six and motivate and encourage them to address the underlying healthcare issues. To get past, for some of our veterans, they may have that warrior mentality. And how do we get past that just suck it up and, embrace the pain? No. Let's address your underlying needs and see how we can best help and support you in their journey of recovery, their journey in sobriety, their journey in stability in their mental health. We also work with a number of veteran-friendly employment personnel, those who willing to work with and accept veterans who are going through our program, give them jobs, give them employment, knowing that working with us, they're going to have a well stable individual that will be an excellent employee of theirs at their business. There are a number of other agencies that we work with, but I think part of the lessons learned is if there's a will and a desire, and when we look at the various legal services agencies, it's taking upon themselves to collaborate with these various other agencies and not just assisting with their civil legal needs, but when that veteran has other issues that arise, being able to have those connections already in place to best provide the needs of their client, that veteran. And thank you very much for giving me a few moments.
Judge Russell, you have really articulated a powerful model for helping veterans, and thank you for being one of the developers of the secret sauce. You are
Thank
truly
you.
a pace setter in this area. We have just a couple minutes, and I'd like to give each of our panelists literally 45 seconds to, we don't produce these reports to have them sit on a shelf. We want to implement the recommendations, and I'd like each of our panelists to visualize how implementing the report will make a difference in veterans' lives. We'll go in the same order we started with. David?
Thank you. You know, when I think about the incredible life-altering changes that I've seen in veterans who've engaged the legal process through the medical legal partnerships, through community foundations like what Nicole talked about, who've been engaged successfully in veterans treatment courts like what Judge Russell was referring to, I think about how tremendously life-altering and life-saving those interactions have been for those veterans. The problem that I see from my perspective is not a problem of quality, but of quantity. And as Stephen talked about, this issue of siloing, what I think is so powerful about the report is the way that it integrates all of the good work that's being done in different silos by different people throughout the country. And I think about extrapolating, what would that mean if we were able to increase that exponentially and to extrapolate that out to the veterans out in the community? And all I can think of is good things. So to me, as I imagine this consolidation from the report being implemented, it really does put a smile on my face.
Thank you. Nicole, what's your vision for implementation and improvements?
I love that. It's so hard to say anything different. I mean, I've been practicing in the veteran sphere exclusively for about 11 years, a little over 11 years. And this report is the first of its kind to really lay out the impact of veterans legal services. And, this isn't because, folks don't want to do good by veterans. We all want to serve those who served us. It's because people just don't have the roadmap or the cultural competency and humility to know how. And so when I think about this report and I think about all of the knowledge that it transfers, the recommendations and strategies that it suggests, I can just imagine the folks who've reached out to us and others who do this work, they now have that toolkit. They now know where to go when they have questions and know how to start. And just knowing where to begin, that trickle of empowerment from advocate to client is so transformative. So that to me is how this report is going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference for advocates who are then going to make all the difference for the folks we serve.
Stephen, how does implementation look to you?
Great comments, David and Nicole. A little different perspective in addition to what they said. We have a volunteer military. And when I think of the young men and women who are considering whether to join the armed forces, I'd like to think that this report can do something to help stabilize their lives when they're finished with their military commitments, and also encouraging them to join the military and be part of our armed forces, and then come home to know that we're all there for them because we've implemented policies and procedures. We've coordinated, working together, working as a team throughout the country, eliminated silos, and have this togetherness and not worrying about who gets credit for something. It's the veteran and their family members who should get all the credit. And we should be proud to be there for them. And to have these young people come back after serving in the armed forces, to know their country is there for them, and that communities are with open arms to help them in any way they can.
Judge Russell, you're our cleanup hitter. What's your vision for the implementation?
Well, one is I'm grateful for the report because the report not only provides a roadmap, but the report also provides some clear, critical recommendations on how we can improve the lives of so many men and women who have served us, and gives us a roadmap on how best we can serve them. So I'm grateful for it. I'm excited about the prospects. Now we have to move it from the shelves to actually implementing, getting it to the hands of those who can make this a reality. So thank you. And we got work ahead, but I'm looking forward.
Thank you, Judge. Amen. I want to thank David and Nicole and Stephen and Judge Russell for their presentations today, for their work on the task force, and most importantly, for their work on behalf of veterans generally, their day jobs for many, many years. I want to thank all of our task force members. Special thanks to our partners, DLA Piper. And lastly, my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to my LSC colleagues, Stephanie Davis and Kira Bolio, for their dedication and stellar work on the task force day after day after day. We've been talking about the report. It actually exists. Here it is. You can see it yourself at lsc.gov, and send it to your friends and neighbors.